Hello, everybody. It's Grace. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. So, asking a very basic, simple question: what is emotional eating? Somebody actually wrote this to me, and I thought, how cool to just start from ground zero. What is emotional eating? Because you're here, you probably know what it is. You have a strong feeling, something that we're labeling emotion. It's not a physical sensation of hunger or a need to actual fuel your body, for physical reasons. But emotions are felt physically in the body. It's no surprise that they get a little mixed and sort of blanketed over with other physical sensations. Like we can feel fear and anxiety in the stomach, same type of place that we feel food and hunger. So they're all closely associated, they're all churning in the body, but we're feeling something very, very strong, like anxiety, fear, anger, irritation, sadness, loneliness, pressure. We feel that based on our response to life, and very, very fast a cycle begins. I've heard it called the sin, guilt, punishment cycle. It's an addictive cycle. It's very natural in many human beings. It's kind of makes some logical sense, but I'm committing a crime in a way, or I need to just get away from this emotion. This is a bad emotion. I don't like it. I want to escape, numb, suppress. I will do anything to not feel this. It's too big. It's too strong. I've even heard people say that they've had huge, excited, celebratory emotions and they still feel like eating, in big, loud, sort of moments where things that happen in life that are supposed to be favorable. And it just, anything that's really huge begins to get funneled into this, oh my God, I'm feeling too much. I need to stop it. I need to stop. I need to get away from this. It's almost like being afraid or anxious about the feeling. And what do? We reach for food. You reach for something comforting, something pleasurable. It's naturally built in that eating would be pleasurable. That gets kind of ruined. It was ruined for me when I had like a disordered eating. I mean, food was briefly and temporarily pleasurable. Of course, that was still there, and that's why I wanted it. It was sweet or whatever it was doing. And other people have other kinds of impulses, and I've shared some of those too. I've had, maybe we have multiple ones: smoking or drinking or using drugs or obsessing about a relationship or spending money. You can get kind of into addictive patterns like that, where you're trying to escape with so many things, behaviors or substances. So as we move into that, and this is what happens after these feelings, emotional experience, we do this behavior to fix it, get away from it, watch hours of TV. So then, very quickly again, the mind will begin to be harsh towards you. Look at you, look at yourself. It's almost like there's a voice in the head that's saying, look, you, what is wrong with you? Will you look at yourself? I can't believe you did that again. The harshness and intensity of that is very bitter. It's like an attack of the self. It's a very, very mean voice. It's cruel. It can often, it's got this motivation within that is like, if I'm really extra, extra mean, she'll stop. If I totally control, if I put her in prison, or if I act like a dictator, obviously what's needed here is absolute control and meanness. We're going to remove all love whatsoever. And that's the way this person's going to make this change. But all the focus is very much into the self. So originally you had a reaction to the outside world, some kind of contact with people or a situation or whatever from any time in your past. You had big, strong feelings, and then you attacked yourself about the feelings. Then now you're on this, in the middle of this cycle. Well, feel guilty. I feel guilty. I'm wrong. I should be ashamed of myself. I am ashamed of myself. A terrible person. Often we feel very, very apologetic. I often notice that because I had such a strong, enduring feeling of guilt and shame and feeling bad about myself, there's like a sense of perfectionism, in there. It's like I just can never measure up. It's very depressing. All right, so then what happens? If you feel depressed enough and upset enough and mad about yourself, you are going to put together a plan. You're going to punish yourself, in this guilty people deserve to be punished. The whole world does it. We put people in jail who do something wrong. The idea is that you're going to have something limited in your life. You're going to pay. You're going to suffer. And then that will somehow, if you pay and go through this cycle of punishment, you'll get back to even ground. And we kind of feel that way. I mean, I sure did. It's like you actually feel as if, okay, I've starved myself for 3 days. I'm going to get on this diet and I'm going to stay on it forever, and I'm going to eliminate that food from my life. And the more I do that, the better I feel like I'm accomplishing something, I'm doing something, I'm getting away from that dark, evil person that I was in the past. And that can feel like it takes a ton of energy. It's hard and it's harsh and it's controlling, controlling oneself, and very, very natural. Like nothing wrong with any of us that we do that. It just seems the way of it. So there's some places that I really want to suggest today that may seem very simple, but it's where you can interrupt this cycle. This very harsh cycle that also never resolves how you felt in the first place about your relationship to reality, to life, to people around you, to what you've learned. It all winds up, the weight of it is on you. Literally, the weight of it is on you. So one thing you can do first, here's how the cycle, what I suggest. The key is ultimately a sense of self-compassion. Love for oneself. Now, easier said than done. If you're in that cycle, if somebody tells you, you should really love yourself, does it work? No, never worked for me. So the first thing to do is just notice that you're filled with emotions. You have emotions and response about how you've reacted to life, to other people, where you have felt hurt. Anything that's ever made you angry, sad, upset, where you felt betrayed, or just hurt. And noticing that you can have those feelings and survive. Just pause. You're uncomfortable. Instead of going so fast to getting away from that terribly uncomfortable feeling, which nobody likes feeling, I know, have it as like, what if this is a sign, a compass, a little, like a little sensor that's giving you a message. Hey, something's going on, honey. That's a kind voice, right? Like if you had a toddler having a tantrum and you weren't upset with their tantrum, because I know sometimes adults can get upset with a toddler's tantrum, right? But if you had a toddler and you felt solid and kind and you just saw they're so incredibly upset, you just hold them or be with them, and they would go through their emotions and then calm down. So you can interrupt the cycle right there. I'm experiencing strong emotions. Can I just pause, even for 60 seconds? I notice the craving coming on. Oh, is there something I'm uncomfortable? Have I been triggered about some sort of feeling? See, this is addressing emotional, eating for emotional reasons. Is there some feeling that I'm so uncomfortable with I don't even want to look? Let's just pause, 60 seconds. If you can write, brilliant. Sometimes you can't, but can you just relax, even though these emotions are running, and notice you're surviving it? Can you handle it? I notice that even if it feels like your emotions are so strong, you're going to implode or fall on the floor or pass out or just be sick to your stomach, that usually doesn't happen. We usually can survive an incredibly difficult moment. The feelings just race and course through you, and part of you just waits. Okay, if you don't interrupt it there, if you get on the merry-go-round, bad person, and you reach for food or you do something, you yell at somebody, you start screaming and yelling, You get defensive, whatever it is. And you're on there, and then you begin to feel guilty because of how you've behaved. You can interrupt it there. All right? Interrupt there. You begin to feel guilty. Oh, I see I'm feeling ashamed. I'm feeling guilty. I feel like I am a bad person. You can inquire. Pause. Is it true that I am a terrible, terrible person? Is it true that I'm the worst person in the world? Sometimes there's kind of a negative grandiosity to how bad we feel about ourselves. I used to be like, I am the worst person in the world. I can't believe that I keep doing this, with eating and binge eating and purging and that whole thing. Very shame-based about it. Didn't want anyone to know. So, can you interrupt the cycle there? Again, a place to inquire. Are you absolutely sure you're the worst person ever? Are you sure there isn't a lot more, that it's a little more complex than that it's not just because you're bad? And just sit, inquire. Can you really know that it's true that you are extra special awful? I can't. Can you really know that? Who would you be without that story in the moment? Who would you be? I notice immediate self-compassion comes in. There's a sense of, wow, I've just really been confused. I don't know what to do. I got scared over there. I felt lonely. I felt worried, anxious. And that was because of something that happened, because of something I was thinking and perceiving. So can I just question the thought? I am so awful. Is that true? Who would I be without that story? The work of Byron Katie is my favorite inquiry process, as you probably know. Who would you be without that belief in this moment? All right, if you still feel bad and you're just convinced you're really the awful person and you screwed up, we all have that. That voice might still be running, and you move into wanting to punish yourself for, committing this crime, for doing something wrong, for not being perfect. And you begin to feel bad, horrible. Well, this is another place that you can also interrupt. Interrupt the cycle. So instead of, deciding that you're going to starve yourself for 3 days or go on that diet or get some kind of harsh help or push yourself at the gym all day long. Plenty of people do this. I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours straight and just sweat my head off, my body out, whatever. Or some kind of really harsh, intense thing that may make you feel a little bit better, but in the long run doesn't really resolve something about this cycle. If you just notice your urge to do that, get on some kind of plan. That lots of times there's things done in the mind with something that addresses your condition. Diets. I'm going to stay on this diet. I'm going to eliminate all this food in my life and make sure I harshly stay on this diet very rigidly. You feel bad, just notice you can interrupt there. Wow, I'm starting to have those plans about going to prison, putting myself in prison. So we'll move out of the auto-punishment cycle and just continue a sense of interruption of that and just be gentle. You can put your hand on your heart, maybe even a hand on your stomach, which I know sometimes feels like a thing that's bad about us, but just be gentle and relax, self-compassion. It can interrupt this cycle. Could I just wait, slow down, and pause with kindness? What is kind to myself in this situation? Can I look and see what's happened? If you find you cannot do it on your own because it's so tricky or you've never had a model for it, get with other people. Make contact with other humans. We love helping one another. We don't sometimes we're so mean to ourselves, we're much meaner to ourselves than we are to other people. So connect with other people. There are free groups and programs. There's 12-step programs where you're just in a room with other people who are taking a look. There are support groups and therapy groups and one-on-one connections and things that you can find online, classes. Just making contact with one or more people can help immensely. You can have a vision. We'll end this one today saying one thing that has been extremely helpful with self-compassion is to create a vision for yourself of the most loving, kind, compassionate figure or person or entity that you could ever imagine. You could call it God or a tree or a mountain or a fairy godmother. And just see this entity, this being, come to you. Maybe it's a historical figure like Gandhi or somebody like that. See this person come to you and befriend you and talk to them. What would their voice say? It is amazing that your imagination is so good at the harsh, punishing thoughts. It's just as good at seeing and envisioning a kind, loving, supportive kind of a voice. But you can imagine it coming and sitting next to you, putting its arm around you, or speaking, making a sound, giving you energy. That is something that you can use your imagination for something very compassionate, very self-supportive in this cycle, and that it's here to help you, teach you, show you how to bring loving kindness to this cycle. That it's here for a reason, and you've been doing the best you can, and now you'd like to learn more. You'd like to sink deeper. You'd like to move under and out of this merry-go-round. You've been spinning long enough. So self-compassion. Let me know how it goes. Lots of love, everybody. I wanted to mention, too, the very end of this. I do a retreat every year in Seattle, Washington in January. It's 5 whole days, eating peace retreat. We do this self-inquiry. We pause. We rest with food. We do mindful eating. It is a wonderful experience and very transformative. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're on the Eating Peace mailing list so you get alerted to this kind of thing. I don't always remember to say, just like I didn't almost remember to say it today in the video. And I do offer online groups from time to time. I don't have anything steady that goes the whole entire year at this point, but I have an immersion group that's every winter, usually starting in November, sometime in that area. And we begin to just look and inquire. It's a no dieting type of group. It's looking at what's underneath the surface of this cycle in the first place. We're really addressing it in the most connected, loving, and steady way possible, using inquiry and the work of Byron Katie to be with ourselves in this compassionate way. So, Eating Peace process immersion starts in November. Keep that in mind too. But even if you never do anything that I'm offering, there are places wherever you live. There's ways to get connected, and I highly recommend it when you find you just can't pop off that cycle on your own. Even just one person who you feel you can really, really connect in a solid and loving way with will make a difference in your life. All right. Lots of love, everybody.